Hi, I'm Larry Puckett, the DCC guy. Well, today we're going to take a look at setting up a Wi-Fi network for your model railroad. And I'll go over some of the things that you can use it for as part of this video and show you how to do that. So let's go ahead and get started. But first, for those of you who have not already subscribed to my channel, please go ahead. It only takes a few seconds to do it and it's free. All you have to do is hit that little red subscribe button, and when the little bell comes up, click on it and click all. Thanks now. Before we get started, I do have a little bit of feedback for you. And I have 4 things to cover, so let's go ahead and take a look at that. First off, in a follow-up email with George Bogatuk at Soundtrax, I asked him, given the change in their recommendations on using speakers with their 2-watt decoders, what about their recommendations now for the 1-watt? And to make a long story short, basically he said that they now recommend that you not go below 8 ohms for your speakers. So that means that instead of using parallel wiring for 2 speakers, you would need to use series wiring, because if you use 2 8-ohm speakers wired in parallel, that gives you 4 ohms. If you put them together in series wiring, then that'll give you 16 ohms. And the interesting thing about it is electronically, apparently, it's a lot easier on the amplifier on the decoder to be able to deal with 16 ohms. So in the future, forget about doing parallel wiring of pairs of speakers, use series wiring. And I covered that in my video on installing speakers. So I will put a link to that here above me so that you can go back and take a look. There was actually two videos in that series on speakers. So take a look at that and it'll show you the difference between parallel wiring and series wiring. And remember, from now on, don't use parallel wiring with your speakers. Okay, so that takes care of the first topic. Second, one thing that came up as a result of last week's video, a lot of people were confused over the 250 that was at the end of the title of that video. They thought that it was a number, a model number for the Frog AR. So people were asking me about the AR250. Actually, 250 is the video number. So that was the 250th video that I have posted here on YouTube. And I used to put the number at the beginning, but for various reasons I decided to move it to the end and put it in parentheses. So that's what that number means. So if you're looking for, if I tell you to go look for video 250, that's the one you would go for. Another thing that has come up, a clarification on the interaction between the ESP wireless system and the Digitrax command stations. You know, in the video that I did on that installation of the ESP wireless system, I mentioned that I had some problems with my DCS 200, 210, and 240 Digitrax command stations. And it was basically that the throttle commands for accessory decoders were not getting through to the accessory network. And what I subsequently figured out was I needed to do a complete factory reset of the system. And once I did the factory reset, everything worked fine. So the guys at DCC Concepts had tested it with their Zephyr system, and they had tested it with the DCS 100. They also purchased a DCS 240 to check it out, and they had no problems at all with that. And as soon as they told me that, I decided I needed to go back and do a complete reset. So I did resets on my DCS 200, 210, and 240, and had no problems after that. So I don't know what it might be that I had a combination of op switch settings that were creating problems, or it might have been something else. I'm not sure at this point. I have not had a lot of time to go back and fiddle around with all of the different settings in the command station and try to figure out what might have been going on. But at any rate, I think we can move forward with confidence that the ESP wireless system seems to work well with just about every DCC system out there. If you do run into problems, do a factory reset and get it back to a good clean state, because basically you do tend to accumulate a lot of things in the memory in these command stations. And the DCS 240 has an extra 200 locomotive slots. So you've got a lot more things that can accumulate. And that means a lot of consist and just everything else that accumulates in memory. So occasionally it's a good idea to do a reset and clear some of this extraneous garbage out of the systems. Sort of like when you reboot your computer at home. Okay, the final thing I did mention in the past that we will be taking a look at building a Helix here on the Piedmont Southern. I had hoped to start it this week. However, other things got in the way. Basically, I had to clear out 10 years accumulation of storage under the layout. And I needed to get that out and move it somewhere else because that's where the Helix is going to go. I've got it cleaned out now, so hopefully before next week, I'll be able to get started on the Helix. So we'll take a look at the design, we'll take a look at preparing a base for it, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at building all of those turns to go between the different levels on the model railroad. So look for that. Hopefully we'll get that started next week, unless something else comes up in the meantime. One thing I want to mention also, as a result, while I was cleaning out underneath of the layout, I dug out some boxes full of my old ON30 equipment. A number of years ago in the early 2000s, I did a whole series of articles for Model Railroading magazine, and that series of articles became the nucleus for the ON30 annual that is still being published by White River Publications. At any rate, I dug out all my old ON30 equipment. I made up a spreadsheet and put in some prices and descriptions and stuff, and I will put a copy of that spreadsheet on my personal website where you can go and download a copy of it. So if you're interested in ON30, I have priced these things well below eBay prices, and I want to unload all of this stuff before I upload it onto eBay. So if you guys, any of you out there that are into ON30, take a look at my spreadsheet, and I will put the address for my website in the description to this video, and you can go there and download a copy of the spreadsheet and see what I've got for sale. And a lot of this stuff, it's never been out of the box. Some of it is kits that are no longer available, that are in their original packaging, and it's a great chance to pick up some things that aren't available any longer because some of these companies have ceased operations. So let's go ahead and move on to the subject at hand, and that is setting up a Wi-Fi network for your model railroad. So the first thing I want to address is, why would you want to have a Wi-Fi network for your model railroad? And the reason I'm going to address that is because somebody asked me that in the comments after that video. And the reason is it allows you to use wireless throttles that you can use to access and control trains on your model railroad. And in addition to being able to control your locomotives, you can also control your accessories, your turnouts, and any other accessories that are operated off of accessory decoders. Now, you can use things like the TCS UWT-50 and UWT-100 Wi-Fi throttles that I've shown you previously. You can also use things like iPads and iPhones using the WiThrottle app that's readily available. You can download it from the App Store. You can use it with Android devices and telephones and pads using the Engine Driver app, as well as I believe there's now a WiThrottle version of that software for the Android devices. So there's potentially also a lot of other Wi-Fi throttles out there available. I'm pretty sure that the Pico and ESU throttles are Wi-Fi based, and there are also a lot of other command stations out there that are now being produced with Wi-Fi built in. So there are just potentially a lot of Wi-Fi throttles becoming available on the market today that allow you to be able to use them on anybody else's model railroad that has a Wi-Fi interface set up. And I'll be showing you in this video how to go about doing that, and I'll show you 2 different ways to do it. Now, as I said, there's a couple of different ways that you can set up a Wi-Fi connection to your model railroad. One of them are devices like this. They're made by the companies that produce the command stations themselves in many cases. This is a Digitrax product. It's called an LNWI. I call it a LNWI, but that means Loco Net Wi-Fi Interface. And basically all it is a Wi-Fi base station so that your throttles can connect directly to the Wi-Fi network built into this device, and it is connected to the LocoNet through these ports here on the back, and that allows you to use your Wi-Fi throttle, and it can be any manufacturer's type Wi-Fi throttle, with a Digitrax system. So it only works with Digitrax systems. Now, other companies like MRC have their version of this. There's also, for NCE owners, a company called WiThrottle makes the WFD-30 and 31, and I know those are sold by Iron Planet Hobbies, and you can check those out there. So that would allow you to set up a Wi-Fi interface for your NCE layout. So these are very, very quick and easy to use. You just plug them in, provide power to them. They usually have, this one has a little barrel plug socket here on the back, so you just hook in a power supply and you're ready to go with it. And you can log on very quickly and easily to it. And these things are transportable. You can just unplug it from your layout and take it to a friend's layout and plug it in there and be able to use your Wi-Fi throttles on his layout. But remember, they're proprietary. They only work with the manufacturer's brand that they are sold by or made to work with. Now, the other option is, as I said previously, to use WiThrottle in Decoder Pro. And for that, you need a standard wireless router. Now, this is an old D-Link wireless router that I used for many years on my home network. And then this is about 10, 12 years old at this point. So a couple of years ago, I went ahead and upgraded to a more modern, more recent wireless router, and this became surplus. So, you know, I put it to use down here in the model railroad. So for in all intents and purposes, it was free for me. And you can probably find these on Craigslist. You can find them on eBay, just all kinds of places where you can buy second-hand used equipment like this that still works, and you can use it as a dedicated Wi-Fi network for your model railroad. You can also use your home Wi-Fi network to access your model railroad, because you can connect your computer to it, obviously, and you can use Decoder Pro for your wireless throttles, your Wi-Fi throttles, to connect through the Wi-Fi router to your computer. And then in Decoder Pro, it has the WiThrottle interface built in, so you can go ahead and connect directly to your command station. And I'll show you how to do that in just a minute. But once you get these set up, you're in good shape. Now, as I said, you can use your home Wi-Fi network as well. I don't recommend doing that because it opens up your network to a lot of people. Anybody that wants to use your Wi-Fi network for their Wi-Fi throttles, they're going to need your user ID and your password for that network. Now, and that opens you up to a lot of problems if some people outside of your operating group manage to get a hold of your password for your home network, because then they can get access to all of your banking information, all of your password, everything that is stored on your home computer. If you're going to go that route, I recommend that you set up a guest account. Most routers now have a setup so that you can create a guest account that kind of locks them out from your regular household account. And you can limit what they can do with that. That would be the only way that I would go this route. My recommendation is don't do it. Get a second-hand Wi-Fi router, set it up, and use it just for your model railroad. And that way it's not connected to the internet at all. You don't have to plug it in to the internet, just to your desktop, and you're ready to go. Now, let's take a look at how you go about setting these up. So once you've got your router plugged in, turned on, and it's working, then you can go ahead and connect your wireless router to your laptop or your desktop computer that is running JMRI and Decoder Pro. I assume that you know how to set up your computer with a wireless router. Most people nowadays are very adept at doing that, and most of the operating systems are quite good at making it very easy. So there's so many different options out there available as far as this goes that I can't get into setting up a Wi-Fi router on a Windows or an Apple computer. I'm going to have to leave that part up to you. However, one thing that you will need to do then is connect your computer to your command station. And for most cases, that is going to involve using a cable like this. Now, this is a standard USB cable. So this is the USB plug that plugs into the USB port on your computer, either on the side or the back of it. And this little square-shaped device plugs into the back of a USB-capable device. So you can see right here, this is a Digitrax PR4 interface. It's a USB interface. And you can see right here, there's a little socket. And so this just plugs right in to the back of it. And then you would connect this via these sockets here on the back to your LocoNet network. And it's the same no matter whether you're dealing with MRC or various other systems. They're going to have some connection that allows you to make a connection between your computer through the USB port or a serial port, if it's some of the older NCE products, and then make the connection to your DCC system. Now, one of the great things about most of the new Digitrax systems is they come with this USB port built into them. For the older ones, you can still use the PR3, PR4. They came with the USB socket here so that you could connect it to your command station. And that's just done, like I said, through the LocoNet connections for Digitrax, and the same thing for MRC and all the others. I did show you in a previous video, and I'll put a link to it here or at the end, on how you can set up a USB interface for the PowerCab system from NCE. And it just has a cable like this that goes between the NCE USB interface and your laptop or your desktop computer. So it's very straightforward to set these things up for these dedicated USB interfaces. And these cables are readily available on Amazon. They're readily available from the makers of those proprietary devices, from Digitrax, MRC, whoever. They're going to offer a cable like this for you, probably at a little bit higher price than what you would pay from Amazon, but it's going to work and it's going to be easy to get. Once you've got the Wi-Fi connection set up, then you need to set up things on your computer with Decoder Pro. So what I want to do now is move over to my laptop, and we'll take a look at how you go about setting up the Wi-Fi connection on Decoder Pro. Okay, here I am at my Windows computer. I've turned on Decoder Pro, got it started up, and you'll see right up here on the upper left, there's a little window that says WiThrottle. So WiThrottle is the protocol that is used to make the Wi-Fi connection between your throttles and your Wi-Fi system. In this case, instead of connecting to my Digitrax system, I'm connected to a Sprague 3 device here on my computer. So you'll see this little window here comes up every time that I turn on Decoder Pro, and I'll show you how to set that up. And it's sitting here, and it tells you that the system is set up, it's on my desktop, and it is waiting for a client or a throttle to connect. So I'm going to turn on my TCS UWT-100, and you can see as soon as I turned it on, I now have a connection between my throttle and Decoder Pro here on my desktop. So it's that fast. It was, it happened so fast that by the time I looked back up from the throttle to the window, it was already connected. So these devices do work very, very well, very quickly. Now that indicates that we have a wireless connection between the UWT-100 throttle and Decoder Pro. So let's take a look at how you go about setting the WiThrottle up. So let me go here, and we're going to go in here and go to Preferences. Now in the past, I showed you how to use the preferences. They are used for setting up connections to different types of DCC systems. You can see here I've connected to a Sprague system on connection prefix on COM6. And I explained all of this in the past, and again I will put a link above me here in the video to how you go about setting up the preferences for Decoder Pro. So you'll be able to go back and take a look at that. Now let's go over here, and we want to go to WiThrottle because we want to set that up. Okay, so this is setting up WiThrottle, and you would click Start Automatically with the application. And that simply means that that little window that I showed you will start up automatically every time that you open up Decoder Pro. And then allowed controls, you can control track power, turnouts, routes, fast clock, consist, using the NMRA format. I've never touched any of this stuff. All I ever remember doing is clicking the Start Automatically button, and that creates the Wi-Fi connection through that pop-up window that I showed you. And then you want to go down here and hit the Save button. I'm not going to do that since I've already done it. So that is all there is to setting this up. It is very, very easy and straightforward because you've already made your connection between your Windows computer or your Apple computer to the Wi-Fi network. So let me close this now. And one thing I want to show you that most people have never even looked at, and it's right here. It's called Labels and Media. And let's take a look at that real quick. First, let me pick a locomotive here. And you have to have a locomotive selected in order for this to work. Then you go down here to Labels and Media and click on that. When you click on Labels and Media, this is the little pop-up that comes up. And what this refers to, what this does here, we've got our function column here, and they are numbered 0 through 28, so it's all of the NMRA functions there. And you can see 0 is labeled headlight, bell, whistle, coupler, air pump, right on down through all of these. And what this does, it allows you to customize these labels so that when you turn on your wireless throttle, be it a TCS UWT, or it could be your iPhone, or it could be your Android phone, or a tablet. You could be using an iPad. These specific labels would be downloaded along with your roster. And that allows these to appear on your display, be it your display on your UWT-100 or the display on your cell phone, your iPad, your Android device, whatever. And that way you can actually customize these to whatever you want them to be. And then there's various other functions here. You can lock them in, you can turn them on, you can turn them off, all kinds of things that I have never used because I have never found them necessary. I just use all of these and make my changes, save them to the roster once you're done, and that's all there is to it. And then, as I said, every time that you go to use one of these locomotives, then you will have these customized labels appear along with the throttle that comes up, the virtual throttle or the display on your handheld throttle. Now, then you would save it to the roster. Let me point out that you need to do this for every one of the locomotives that has a decoder, because you set this up for each specific decoder. You will have a different set of functions for each. And that works out because let's say that you wanted to use the Soundtrax F11 brake. Then you would specify here at 11, that could be your brake set and release as opposed to 12. So it would be different on a Soundtrax decoder than it would be with a TCS decoder, which typically uses what, function 6 or 7? I think it's function 7 for the break. And that allows you to customize the display on your throttle for your functions for each specific decoder in your roster. So it allows a lot more flexibility and capabilities. And then you would just save it to your roster when you're done. Well, that's a wrap for today's video. Hopefully, I gave you enough information so that you can go ahead, set up a Wi-Fi connection, a Wi-Fi network for your model railroad, so you can use throttles like this from TCS and the various other ones that are available. So no matter which DCC system you own, go ahead and take a look into the capability that they have for making the Wi-Fi connection between your computer and the command station itself. And then it's a simple matter to connect up your home network, which I don't recommend, or to go out and get yourself one of these used Wi-Fi routers and set that up on your system for use, or to go with a proprietary connection like the Digitrax Linwi or the MRC interface or the WiThrottle WFD systems and the various others that are readily available out there. So have a great weekend, have a great week, and we'll see you here next week, hopefully to start working on the Helix for the Piedmont Southern. Bye now.